Project Camelot Whistleblower Radio. And we are back on the air with George Kavassilas. And George, the last segment was so amazing and such good information that I'd almost have you repeat it. But rather than have you do that, I just want to thank you so much for that and urge everyone, if you missed the last segments of our talk, that you go back and listen again, because I think some very vital information there. I'm glad you're pointing out the Nordics and the sort of deception that goes around with a lot of the beings that call themselves Nordics or that people relate to as Nordics. And obviously there are some good blue-eyed, blonde-haired beings out there. And so maybe you can talk about your interactions with, for example, the beings that you feel that you've interacted with and why they struck you as being different than the ones we've been talking about up to now.
Yeah, the ones that are different is because they know who we are. The ones that have the vibration of the organic pattern of life. They're the beings, well, we could use the label the beings of the true light. And there's beings who are 3D and they're of the true light. There's beings who are 4D and are of the true light. They just know where they are in their journey in the universe, and they go about behaving in a very respectful manner to all life. They're just, in a different vibration, having a different experience. So they're the ones who understand the organic processes to life, and they understand that the human race here is very, very important. That that we represent them in life here, because who we all are all ETs anyway. And what is a human? The human embodiment is a generic form that holds all the codes. So therefore, all life can incarnate and be a human. And every race is represented here on Earth. And that's the important thing to understand. It's the melting pot of the universe. And
I think, George, sorry to interrupt there, but I really want to clarify that for people, because I think that's so crucial, that's exactly what we are. We are a melting pot of the races of the universes. And because of that, we are those races have some wars that go back eons. And some of those things are being manifested here on purpose. And then they're basically using, I say that they have troops on the ground. It's kind of, the way I term it.
Yeah, they do. They do have troops on the ground that propagate and inflame the situation, but they also manipulate an existing energetic stream. So if you, for example, belong to a race and I belong to a different race and we were at war at some time in the cosmic drama, then what they do is they identify the energetic patterns between you and I, and then when you and I talk, they will try to exacerbate that energetic stream between us. And that's why when you talk to some people, sometimes you think, why are they getting so upset with me? I didn't say anything and I didn't do anything that warrants that kind of reaction. So you just got to realise it's Mr. Smith at work inside that person, inflaming that existing energetic stream, because these beings are not creators. They can only ever manipulate what already exists. So they're just master manipulators. So if you understand what an incarnational construct is, which is a 1 hour talk in itself, so I can't go right into it here, but there's a lot involved in every incarnation. It's so much work goes into each incarnation. And yes, we are very much honoured and very much revered throughout the universe. And it's only that because we're being exposed to that group of extraterrestrial races that are caught up in that paradigm, which I spoke of earlier, that's what we think at the moment is all there is. But no, it's so much more than that. And you've got to realise that there's a whole universe full of life out there beyond this veil of ET exposure that we're having at the moment, that totally knows who we are and totally honours and reveres everybody on this planet.
Right, and I think that concept, the psychological sort of downgrading of humanity on a regular basis, and as you said, talking down and also characterizing the human race as being sort of a backward or very sort of wrong-ended experiment, so to speak. I think that
yeah.
concept is a way of twisting people's minds and giving them an inferiority complex. It's done here in regard to racial relations. So it can really, if you take that paradigm, you switch it into an ET paradigm, you're actually able to see how that's working, and it's really destructive.
That's fantastic, Kerry. You put it so well. And that's really, really what's going on. And I say to people that word experiment, I don't like it. I don't, because it devalues what's going on here. This is a process. When people say, oh, it's all just an illusion, it's just a dream, it's not really real. They say that to totally devalue what's going on here. Like, if I challenge anybody, I'll lay this gauntlet down. I challenge anybody to connect with the consciousness of the being that is this planet. And I tell you what, you better have a box of tissues with you when you do. Because when you connect with that woman, you're going to realize whose body you're on, and you're going to freak out. And the humility and your ego just melts. It is so profound an experience when you realize that you are incarnated on the body of the divine feminine aspect of this universe, on what we call the Divine Mother. She's manifested herself as this planet so we can have this experience we're having. Can you imagine how much power it takes to hold the space here? We're talking about all the energetic patterns that have ever existed in this universe, all compressed under one planetary reality. If you want to talk power and you want to talk courage, oh my goodness, I've had big draconian warriors throw me around my bedroom. I've come up against the biggest reptilian beings you can imagine, and they are nothing but frightened little creatures inside of themselves. When you tap into that, they have nothing on you. And I can tell you, when they are in front of me now, anybody wants to talk tough in front of me, I say to them, you got nothing on the consciousness of the woman that is this planet, because she volunteered to be beaten and tortured and raped and burned at the stake and pillaged for eons of time, and no other being in the universe has had the courage to do that.
Absolutely. And I appreciate that, George. I also want to say that you're triggering an interesting concept here, which I don't think a lot of people don't really recognize. And I want to address that while you're sort of talking about the Earth Mother in this regard. So, because women have also done this, as have other, men and other people in their incarnations. This is a process, as you said. And so you will get people
symbiotic.
Put themselves
it's symbiotic,
in
the process.
In positions. Yeah, but they put themselves in those positions where they do get, they do undergo suffering, as many have, and they may be raped, they may be abused in multiple ways in order to facilitate a healing of the other party. Okay,
exactly,
and of the group that they are a part of.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. And really, when it got to the end of my abductions, this is when I started really getting empowered, and they were abducting me, and I would just lie there on the table and look at them, and I would say, no matter what you do to me, I will always love you. When you get to that point, then you really got what it takes inside, and because that's unconditional love. You're loving them no matter how bad they're treating you, and it takes a while to get there.
George, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah. Are you hearing me?
Hello?
Hello? Can you hear me? Hello?
Hi. Yeah, we had some interference. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, sorry about that. You just broke up right after you said when you get to that place, then you know you really... Go ahead from there.
Okay, you've really got it. When you can look at a being that's mistreating you, and you can say, "I just love you, no matter what you do to me." That's when you've really gotten to a place of unconditional love. And of course, you don't just allow beings just to walk over you all the time. It's knowing how to implement that in its right and appropriate way. So I want to address that. I'm sorry to interrupt here, because that also is a very key concept.
and it's important for people to understand what it means to love, and I think that when you say you will still love them, it's important not to give one's power away by giving love energy to beings that are basically doing injustice. And maybe you can talk about that sort of fine line.
Oh, sure. It's like when you have a dark being, and you traditionally talk to, let's say, project white light onto that being. Well, first of all, you might as well just get a gun and just shoot everybody that's evil on this level, because that's what you're doing. It's a weapon. You're beaming white light that hurts a dark being. And so I urge everybody to be careful what they're doing, because they're creating great karma for themselves the more they do that. Because what you're doing is you're engaging in the game of duality, because the positive and the white love and light, which is in the positive realm, is the exact same level, but is in opposition to the dark and the negative realm. So the love that Kerry and I are speaking about is taking those two aspects and integrating them into one state of being, and that is above and beyond duality. So the unconditional love we're speaking of is outside of the game of duality. So when you've got a lot of the negative charge going on the planet, now we're seeing an intense version of the positive charge coming in. That's all the positive white love and light business that we're seeing, all the fluffed up stuff that we're seeing. So a lot of people are just, taking to that. So that's not the type of love we're talking about. Unconditional love is much more deep, much more graceful, and is outside the game of duality. Right.
Well, it is an interesting concept, because I think a lot of people just, again, it's so deep that it's very hard to grasp, and it's another thing also to try to talk about it, because I don't think that people up to now have really addressed that much. And so that when people do attempt to talk about it, as we are doing at this time, then it gets misinterpreted. So rising above duality it's like an easy catchphrase, but I think what happens sometimes is people, when you're saying they actually do want to give, love and white light to the dark side, actually you're defeating your own purpose.
Yeah, you're giving it energy too. You're feeding the game of duality, so you're actually giving your power away. So if you want to remain empowered, it's like this. If I can use an analogy, if a mother spoils a child rotten, that's too much positive love, and that's not healthy. It's kind of like if you want to be in this blissful, passive, love, blissed out state all the time, go right ahead. But very soon, or maybe a bit further down the track, you're going to realise it was the wrong move, because if you're just wrapped up in cotton wool the whole time, you're never going to learn anything. So the whole point of this universe, this light-based universe, which is duality, even right at the highest levels where you get to what people call the light of God and all that sort of business, it's a very
George,
high...
I'm not sure whether you're being heard out there.
Okay. Can you hear me? Hello, Kerry?
Now I can.
Okay.
Yes.
So, so what I was saying was that once you get up to the much higher vibrations of the universe, it's still light. Even though you're right up the very top near the Godhead, it's still light. Therefore, it's still duality, but it's a much finer vibration. So people think that the earth plane is duality and everything outside of that is not duality. Well, that's just nonsense, really. Because as long as you have light, you have vibration, therefore you have duality. So I just want to clarify that up first. And so what we're talking about here is, when I say out of duality, I don't really mean out of the universe altogether. I mean out of the lower domains of the universe where the polarization is quite pronounced. So you really need to experience it. The whole point of coming into this universe is to learn and to grow. So if you just stay on one side of duality the whole time, like positive white love and light, and that's it, and you don't have any negative experiences, you're never going to learn. You're always just going to remain on this one side of duality, or one side of the scales, so to speak.